Georgetown County Council Chairman Louis Morant was just reelected to another 4-year term on County Council. He tells me what's going on in Georgetown County and what issues he's tackling for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Louis Morant, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, you are the chairman of the Georgetown County Council, and I love Georgetown County a lot, and the city of Georgetown too. I know that too. Last week, you were elected on last Tuesday to another 4 term on County Council by a vote of 1,961 votes to your opponent's 1,411 votes. Tell me, Mr. Lewis, what does that mean for you and Georgetown County Council going forth?
Well, I should say that I was reelected to this particular position to serve on Georgetown County Council. And what it tells me is that the citizens of District 7 really have confidence in me, and they elected me to represent their particular interests on council. So whatever the district is doing now and whatever we've been doing jointly, working as a team, has been working well for them. They believe I have their interests at heart. If they did not think that, then obviously they would not have given me their vote. So I think what it does, it gives me a sense of confidence. It shows that they have a sense of confidence within me to represent their interests on county council.
So what exactly is that particular interest right now, Mr. Lewis?
The interest on council right now, you're looking at the development aspect of the western part of the county. As you know, District 7 encompasses the rural areas, basically the western part of Georgetown County going down Highway 701. Now, we lack several things in those particular areas. We lack fire protection, better fire protection. Our infrastructure is not the best there. We lack some what we consider to be affordable housing where people can actually come to live within reasonable means. We are working on a plan right now to assist with the fire protection services there. We are partnering with Georgetown County Water and Sewer District, and we've given them some seed money in the amount of, I shouldn't call it seed money, it's $2 million, but it's a $10 million project to assist with bringing better fire protection to the western part of Georgetown County. And we have some drainage issues out there also. So the infrastructure aspect of it is are things that we are working on. We've received some funding to assist with drainage in that particular part of the area, of the county, I should say. So we're working on those type of things, and the residents in that particular area, they acknowledge the fact that I've been working diligently with them to try to accomplish those particular feats. So they see that I'm a worker, they understand that I'm a worker, and they believe that I have their best interest at heart to make their living conditions better. And also, their interest also has to do with jobs. So we're bringing in jobs to the county also with higher wages.
So what are the wages right now in Georgetown County, Mr. Lewis?
When I first got on council, the minimum wage, or the wages for county employees was right above minimum wage. Right now, the wages have been increased up to at least a minimum of $11 per hour for county employees. Obviously, the private employees pay whatever they desire. But we're still trying to get those wages up a little higher to be more livable. But we've come a long way in, 2 years? So that's not bad, coming from $725, $750 to $11 in 2 years. That's not a bad jump. So I think with the personnel that the county has, with the administrator the county has, we have good employees. We have dedicated employees. So obviously you want to make sure that they're adequately compensated, that they can actually live on the wages that they are receiving. We don't want them to have second jobs, move to other counties in order to supply services, needed services to them, when they can do it right here in Georgetown. So they're dedicated employees. We want to make sure that we take care of our employees.
Now, with that wage right now, and obviously you're bringing more jobs to Georgetown County, but let me ask you, Mr. Lewis, how many Georgetown County employees actually live out of the county and actually also have second jobs just to make a livable wage?
I don't have those particular numbers at hand, really. But there are some employees who work in Georgetown County and live outside. You have the educational structure also. And one of the things which Georgetown lack are affordable housing. We call it workforce housing, affordable housing, call it what you want, but it's a place where people need to live. We don't need to get caught up in the terminology of it. We just need to have homes here that can sustain the wages that are being paid. And right now, we don't have that. So we have to bring some type of housing complexes here that people can afford to live. We have our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers. They're not in that higher income bracket per se, but they're mainly county employees. And county employees, you're fixing their salary based on tax dollars. And with Georgetown County's budget, you can only afford to pay but so much.
Yeah.
You know, we are caught between, I shouldn't say caught, but we're between Charleston and Myrtle Beach.
Right.
And obviously their budget is much higher, more than triple our budget, more 6 times our budget, I should say. And so we cannot afford to pay the same amount. Well, we don't have the funding to pay the same amount that those particular counties pay. So we have to provide salary and salaries to them within our particular budget. We're looking at about 97, almost a $98 million budget. Whereas you go next door to Horry County, you're looking at almost a $600 million budget.
Yeah.
So obviously, how can we compete financially with them? So we have to try to find other ways of maintaining our employees and trying to make sure that they are adequately compensated and have a decent place to reside within Georgetown County. So we want to bring our employees to Georgetown County and live and work here.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Lewis, you mentioned tax dollars. So what is the current tax base right now in Georgetown County?
Well, the tax base right now, you look at the different mills depending on which district you reside in.
Right.
But the overall budget in Georgetown is about $97.7 million. That's the overall budget. The tax base here is not that high per se as compared to some of the others, because you have to look at the condition that people are living in and the amount of income that they're earning. You have houses on one side of the county that's valued at much more than the other side of the county. So you try to find ways of balancing the scale in some respect. So you have to take those tax dollars and try to spread it out, try to take care of the operational aspect, you take care of the salaries, you take care of their needed necessities that the county residents need. You try to make sure you get some of the necessities. You can't get everything, but you try to do things to make sure we're all living in a much better environment.
So, Mr. Lewis, let me ask you, how should Georgetown County create a dedicated funding stream for attainable or affordable or workforce housing development through zoning and other planning tools?
Well, you're looking at, we have to find ways to I guess modernize in some respect, for lack of a better term, to modernize our relationship with the developers. With the way the society is right now and the cost of materials and everything to construct, it's somewhat difficult to actually construct a home for certain amounts that's going to bring it within that particular income level. Right now, to find a home under $150,000, you're really fortunate if you can find one along those prices, right? Because of the cost of construction, the cost of land, the cost of materials and everything else. So there has to be some type of partnership worked out, and there may have to be some type of funding, grant funding, governmental intervention to try to assist offsetting some of those costs. And one of the ways of doing that is try to assist in putting in some of the infrastructure that will cut down some of the costs. Because one thing that we have in the western part of the county, I should say we don't have the infrastructure to assist in developing some of those particular projects. So we need to find some ways of developing the infrastructure in the western part of the county so we can be ready to build houses that people can actually afford without those excessive costs. Because obviously the builder comes there and it needs the infrastructure. All that's going to be added into the overall pricing of that particular structure. So we can find some way of offsetting the infrastructure costs, and that may help offset some of the costs of the buildings.
And Mr. Lewis, I got 2 questions for you, but let me ask you now, say for instance, for right now, do the next 5 years, how many affordable homes do you need in the western part of Georgetown County?
Well, I cannot particularly answer that question per se because I don't have the figure in front of me. But we did a study, really, and within that particular study, it was projected that there are certain numbers that would be necessary to, and obviously we don't have the capacity to do all of that, but we have to begin somewhere. So as far as the numbers of homes necessary at this point, I cannot tell you at this particular time. But I can tell you any home that we can build within Georgetown County right now that's going to be able to be afforded by the workforce residents would be a valuable asset to the county. So any home we can get at this point, it would be greatly needed. Okay.
So, Mr. Lewis, let me ask you this then. What current public and private partnerships would you be in favor for as far as infrastructure in that area?
Well, we're looking at a partnership with with the developers, really. We can enter into public-private partnership with developers, provided they're willing to enter into those type of arrangements with the county. You're looking at the other entities within the county. You have the Georgetown County Water and Sewer, you have rural water, you have Brownsbury Water. All those play a part in the infrastructure which comes into Georgetown County. So obviously, we all have to work together in order to make Georgetown County a better place for all our residents to live. So yes, the county is open to looking at partnerships which can be arranged between developers, the other utilities within the county. You have Santee Electric, you have Santee Cooper. All of those entities provide services to Georgetown County. So the county can only grow if we can work together and partner with them to assist in getting the infrastructure which would be necessary for the building of houses, and not only single-family houses. We're talking about multi-family houses also. But we do need some of those, and you got to look at the commercialism surrounding it, because once you build the houses, then obviously you're going to need some service industries to serve those particular houses. So there have to be a commercial component in that also. So we county's open for business.
Business. So I got to get to my next question too, but let me ask you, what would be ideal as far as that's, as far as say grocery stores or restaurants or shops right now in that part of the area of Georgetown County?
Really, when you look at the geography of Georgetown County, when you look at the western part of the county, you don't see any grocery stores over here. You see a lot of Dollar Generals, and Dollar Generals have done a fine job to assist in clearing up some of the dry goods and the dry aspect of it, really.
Yeah.
But we need stores like Food Line, some of the other grocery stores that can provide adequate services and more provide more services, I should say, variety of products. So that's what we need in the western part of the county. Wow. And when you go down 701 after you pass Walmart, then the only thing you're going to run into is a Dollar General. And we don't have anything like a Lowe's or Home Depot or anything along those lines. But you got to have those type stores to be able to serve the developers that are coming, developments which would be coming to that area. And there are some developments that are being constructed right now down 701. So, but then you still have to come back to the city of Georgetown in order to get your supplies, whereas you can find some way of getting something in that particular area where people don't have to travel as far. But Georgetown County, when you're really starting at the county line, which is the Petey River, which is Johanna Bridge, it really starts all the way there. It encompasses Petey, Pleasant Hill, all the way back to Charleston County line. Then you got Horry County line on the other side too. So when you look at the western part of the county here, when you're talking about from the great PD all the way back to the city limits, there are a lot of residents there, and there are a lot of needs there. So we have to all come back to the city of Georgetown to get things to supply our needs. Or we may go across the bridge and go to Horry County, because sometimes Horry County is closer than the nearest grocery store in Georgetown. It's, so maybe closer because you have the PD area up there. They may be closer to Conway, to the Food Line in Conway than in the Food Line in Georgetown. All depends on where they actually live in that particular area. So, but we can find those industries right within our communities. Then we have a tendency to strive, and people may have a tendency to move there. But obviously, it's just the adverse. Whereas they expect the homes and the buildings and the people to be there prior to bringing the stores there. The stores don't come first; the people come first, and the stores follow.
Right.
So, but you need infrastructure to do that.
Yeah, and Mr. Lewis, when you think about those developers, what type of incentives would you give them to come to the Georgetown County area?
Well, that's a good question. And it's something we would really need to look down, sit down at the table and discuss with them. And I probably would have to discuss it more with my administrator there. She's more insightful along those lines. And besides, that's what her study is. I mean, that's her expertise. So I don't want to sit here and think that I have the expertise to tell what all incentives which can be offered. But we have certain things we kind of like impact fees and different things we may be able to work with. Fee in lieu of taxes and some other stuff. But I'm not saying that would be available to these particular developers or not, and that's why I said it's probably a discussion I would have to have with the administrator, and she can probably explain it more in detail, be more insightful along those lines, because that's her expertise. One of her expertise.
Yes, sir. And going back to the western part of Georgetown County, how many residents live there currently?
The western part of Georgetown County is very rural. Okay. The residents there, as far as concise numbers there, I would not know. Because the western part, again, it expands pretty vast. Yeah, it runs from the Horry County line down to the Great PD. It goes around to the County Line Road, which is Highway 51, coming around through the Pleasant Hill area.
Yes.
Williamsburg County line. It's really where it runs. So I don't know precisely how many households are in that particular area, but I'm sure I can probably get those numbers from an agency like Walmart Regional. They may have some better idea, and they don't have the concise number, but they may have an approximate number there. But we have one high school in that particular area. We have what is it? 1, 2, 3 elementary schools. I think there are in that particular area to serve that area really. So it's pretty it's pretty populated, I should say. So I think it can use some services there. Matter of fact, they built another Dollar General in the Pleasant Hill area. They built one in the Brown Ferry area. Right. So now we have 3 Dollar Generals in that particular area. To my knowledge, I'm aware of 3 Dollar Generals in that area. So something is happening which causes them to continue to build in the area.
And you talk about services, Mr. Lewis. I know earlier in the interview you mentioned about those about fire protection. What is the future of that in that particular part of the county?
We're working on that right now. As I alluded to earlier, as I stated earlier,
yes, sir.
Georgetown County is partnering with Georgetown County Water and Sewer District, and I think what a lot of people may not understand that we are 2 separate entities. Okay, the Water and Sewer District is not a part of Georgetown County. They are what's called a special purpose district, so they set their own rules and regulations. But the county has partnered with them to try to increase the fire protection within the western part of the county. Georgetown County Water and Sewer District has come up with an operational plan, and the plan, I think, the cost for it is about $10 million, really, and the county has allotted $2 million to serve as what we call seed money, so that the district will be able to pair that other funding to get better fire protection within the rural area of the county. We have water and sewer in some parts of the county, but the lines for the water system is not large enough to accommodate the pressure that the fire hydrants would need for the fire protection. So those lines need to be changed out, and that's where the cost really comes into play. But the plans are already on the table to do that, and now we're looking at getting to what status where we are right now, because the funds have been allotted to start preparing for better fire protection through the western part of the county. So it's being done.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Lewis, what other funding do you all want to have for this particular fire protection service in the future?
Well, that's coming up with Georgetown County Water and Sewer District. They'll be supplying the additional funding, which would be sufficient to provide the services that are needed for fire protection throughout the county. And they need some money to, because sometimes when you get grants, you got to have matching funds for those particular grants, and that's where the county came into play. The county allotted the funding for the matching grants. So.
And how many more lines should be changed right now in your mind?
Well, you have all the highways there. When you're coming down 701, the question is how large are those particular lines? When the water lines, from my understanding, when the water lines first came through our communities, they're considering more like water, not fire protection. So obviously they wanted to make sure they get adequate and clean water to the household. So the lines weren't as large because the funding wasn't there to increase the lines at that particular time. But the residents needed clean, healthy drinking water. So they supplied the lines to the residents to get clean drinking water. But now as the community has grown, the services has increased, and now we need fire protection. And lo and behold, the lines that were put in at that time would not accommodate the pressure for fire hydrants and the fire protection that's necessary. So when you talk about how many lines that are necessary, it runs through the entire community. I think the project is called something like I forget what it's called, the Western. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a plan that Water District has composed to accommodate the entire western part of the county. Once you pass Walmart, all that particular area out there, all the lines in that area is somewhat smaller than what it needs for fire protection in that area. So those lines are being changed out. So you're talking about a lot of lines. It's a very large project.
And how long will this project take?
That again, I can't answer because it's being supervised by Georgetown County Water and Sewer District.
Okay.
So they would be the one to give some type of timeline as to how long it would take to complete that particular project. Basically, the next thing we do is to make sure we get all the funding together. And once we have all the funding, then we have to bid the project, obviously. And it takes a while for the bid process to go. And once the bid process goes, then the contract will give them somewhat of a timeline as to when the project can actually be completed. But it's a huge project because in the rural areas, as you may know, they're long roads. And to change those lines up to make it competitive and to make it appropriate for fire protection use, then it's going to take a little while to do that. So hopefully Hopefully, it doesn't take an excessive period of time. Hopefully, it'll be done relatively soon. The main thing is to get the project started and get all the funding for
And, and speaking of water, let's go back to the drainage. I know you talked about that funding. Where's that funding right now for that?
the drainage.
Yes, sir.
That funding for now that's going to be in a different area, really. There's an area called out there near McDonald's School, what we call the Spring Gully area. They have some drainage issues out there. So the county has allocated some funding. I don't know what the total figure is from the top of my head right now. The county has allocated some funding to assist with the drainage in that area also because they've been having some big drainage issues there. So the county has taken a look at that, has allocated some funding to assist with that and also to assist with their roads that's there. But one thing you have to happen before you're able to get to the road, that you have to do the drainage first and then make arrangements to have the roads better prepared also. But yeah, that's being taken a look at. We're working with public services there and some other state agencies to make sure we get the drainage completed in that area.
And Mr. Lewis, let me ask you, what 10-year plan should the county submit to the Department of Transportation to correct the backlog of maintenance and actually fix roads in Georgetown County?
Well, we have a CTC committee, and that committee works on those particular plans. So they would be the one to assist with making sure that the infrastructure and all the roads within the county are being taken a look at and being paid, really being improved. Now, the county has done a tremendous job in improving a lot of the roads. If you ride through Georgetown County now, you see roads being repaired all over the place. So I think the county has been doing a good job with that, but there's still more needs to be done. So we have a county transportation committee which takes a look at those particular aspects of it. They're the one who will set the guidelines regarding it. As to what their status is now regarding the roads that's on their particular list, I'm not aware of those at this point, so I don't want to speculate.
Sure. And Mr. Lewis, let me ask you this too, because this is part of that. But how would you actually create the county that is a permanent funding source for maintenance and road capacity in Georgetown County?
Well, the county has a road tax fee. Really, it's in the tax bill, and those funding were being utilized for road improvement throughout Georgetown County. At one time, if you recall, or as you may know, the court has struck that particular provision down, but the legislature stepped in and corrected it. So now we have the road tax fee still there. So those are the funding that's being collected from our taxpayers to assist with road improvements and for infrastructure.
And how much money has that road tax generated for the county?
Again, I don't know what amount.
Okay.
I don't like speculating.
Sure.
But it has done a pretty good job. Without that, the county would be in desperate needs without a particular fee because it has assisted in paving a lot of roads throughout Georgetown County.
Wow. So, Mr. Lewis, which infrastructure projects are in place right now in the county as we speak here right now?
Most of the infrastructure I'm speaking of really has more to do with the western part of the county.
Okay.
That's where the infrastructure is more needed. And when I'm talking about infrastructure, I'm talking about road improvements, I'm talking about sewer, most of anything else. I'm talking about water lines. So there's still some communities which do not have water lines coming through them. So those are the things that I am speaking of, and those are mainly within the western part of the county. I'm talking about the western and northwestern part of the county. So that's what you're looking at. You have the areas, what we call across the bridge, the Walk-on Neck area. Most of those areas have infrastructure in it in some respect. And there's still some drainage issues which need to be worked on, but they have more infrastructure than the areas on the other side of the bridge. Mm-hmm. So we need to try to find some way to shift some of those construction aspect to the western part of the county, but we can't shift them until we get some infrastructure there because the costs are going to be too high to construct on that side. When you got to put in the infrastructure and everything else, you got to put in your roads, you have to do your water and your sewer and all of that. So it makes it somewhat difficult for them to do the construction over there. So that's what we're talking about, trying to get it in the western part of the county.
And as we talk about, obviously a big topic right now is inflation. How has that affected infrastructure projects in Georgetown County?
Well, the inflation aspect, Georgetown County hasn't done that bad, to be honest with you, because structures are still going up in certain areas of the county. So inflation has not hit us that hard per se.
Okay.
But just like every other part of the county, there have been some effect, but it hasn't been that dramatic to us, really, that devastating to us, I should say.
Wow. And going back to infrastructure and obviously developers, as we talked earlier, Do you know, Mr. Lewis, how many builders or developers have opted out of, say, building regulations pertaining to limiting impervious surfaces in Georgetown County?
I don't. I don't. Again, that would be more with our planning department, really. But yeah, but we've had a lot of builders to contact the county, from my understanding, from what I've seen, to contact the county to try to continue doing construction within Georgetown County.
Wow.
So I don't think a lot of them have opted out of building in the county. They're still looking at the county, and they're trying to find places. Again, we sit between Charleston and North Beach, so
Yeah.
we may get squeezed in some respect at some point in time.
Yeah.
But that's what they're looking at now, trying to find areas within Georgetown County where people can live a more moderate, slower pace life. Really.
Wow.
So,
So, what is, with all of this going on, Mr. Lewis, what is the quality of life in Georgetown County?
but Georgetown County is somewhat relaxed, laid back. You don't have the hustle and bustle of the place you want to do. You want to come to get some fresh air. You have the serenity of the Black River that's here. You can go down to Merzen and Marsh Walk. So Georgetown is a county that has two diverse living styles, I should say. So whatever you desire to do in Georgetown County, you can find it in some aspect of the county. We have all the rivers here. We have the ocean here. We have the beaches. So you can go to the beach. You can go to the river. You can go fish. You can go kayaking. Georgetown has a lot of opportunities here. A lot of things that people can actually do within Georgetown County for. Some people like the peace and quiet, and you have the city here. The city has the boardwalk.
Yes.
So there are obviously things within Georgetown that would accommodate all the residents who desire, all the residents, all the visitors who desire to come here to take pleasure in the amenities Georgetown has to offer.
Mr. Lewis, let me go to the boardwalk where I was a couple of years ago, and I love the city of Georgetown. What should be the master plan for the county as far as to clean up and revitalize the waterfront?
Well, now you're looking. You asked me to cross over and get into the city's
Oh, sorry.
city's decision here, but that's those are conversations that which need to be had. We'll put both the county and the city on board, really.
Okay.
Take a look and see what can be done to enhance the waterfronts that's there. There have been, some commercialism and maybe something to be beneficial, because it's a beautiful site that's there. So we have not gotten into any discussion per se concerning the developments of it as of this stage, but there are still some things that are being worked out to own the facilities which would allow us to do any type of development in that area. So there's some things that are still being worked out. So that has not been cleared up as of yet. So I wouldn't want to get into any discussion at this point.
Sure.
It's something that's really been finalized regarding it.
And I, just as a programming note, I'm going to be interviewing the new Georgetown mayor, Mayor J. Rowe, for Quintin's close-ups in the next 2 weeks, so I can ask her about that as well. And in the past, I've interviewed, the past mayor as well. But let me ask you, when you think of Georgetown County, what has been the most important thing that has actually changed in the county in the past 4 years in your mind?
We've been expanding our airport. Okay, we have been bringing higher paying industries to Georgetown County. So we're trying to compete in some respect with the wages that are being paid in other areas. So we have companies here who are offering higher wages. We have job openings in Georgetown County now that which need to be filled. We have developed and opened the Advanced Technical Center, which provides training for those particular jobs that are coming here. So Georgetown County as a whole has been moving. Has been providing assistance to its residents, and really it has provided opportunities. So Georgetown is really being considered as an opportunity county for people to come in and can enjoy their life at a slower pace. You don't have to go through the hustle and bustle. We are getting a little more traffic now than we once used to, but it's still, as compared to some of the other counties and cities around, it's still not as bad. So Georgetown County is a place that you can actually, it's laid back in some respect, I guess. But you still can get things accomplished, and we have a good school system in Georgetown County. Also, we have blue ribbon schools here. So those things make Georgetown County a good place to live and raise your family.
And Mr. Lewis, I know you talk about bringing many jobs to the area. How many minority businesses have you brought to the county, or do you want to bring to the county?
Well, we have minority business initiatives through the chamber and through the county. So those particular departments are working on highlighting minority businesses and trying to encourage them to set up service within Georgetown County. As far as the numbers per se, I don't have that listing either, and I don't keep account of those. That's why we have our employees to handle those particular aspects of it. We want to know that the results that they are accomplishing, and they've been doing a dynamic job with that to highlight it. Matter of fact, there was a class done with the chamber several months ago, really, for minority business owners to teach them the ins and outs and how to complete requisition form to be able to get contracts with the county and other government entities. So there's been some training going on to show minority businesses what they need to do in order to move their businesses along. And that's been working out relatively well because I've encountered some of them in my travels throughout the county.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Lewis, let me ask you. Well, then, how many contracts have the county awarded to minority businesses?
Again, you're going to the department that my administrator needs.
Okay, sorry.
What council generally look at, we set policies. We don't get into the day-to-day operations of the county. We set the policies and they report to us as to what's going on, but we don't get into the day-to-day operations. We allow that to them. That's why they're the one who make the big bucks. So we rely upon their expertise, and we don't try to micromanage them.
Sure.
So we try to make sure we do not do that. We allow them to exercise their expertise to handle particular matters, and we look at the positive results which they bring. We have our trust and faith within them really to handle those things. Now they report to us, they do report to us, but we don't try to micromanage and remain a day-to-day log as to what they bring in and what they take out. They do, we don't.
Yes. So
what we would do if we need to know about something, we just call them up. Look, tell me about this, tell me about that, and we go forward from there. But we don't make it. Or we try not to micromanage, I should say.
Sure, not a problem. And when you look around the county right now, Mr. Lewis, what other communities in the county, in your mind, needs to be enhanced, elevated, and protected right now?
Well, you have some minority communities really, and they feel that we're being encroached upon. So you want to make sure that those communities are protected in some respect. So you have this dichotomy between property owners, landowners, people own the property, they can do whatever they want to do with it. And you have the minority communities which wants the areas to be protected, but then you're looking at the landowners. If you have more people within those particular communities who do not own the property or the land that's within those communities, then it becomes kind of difficult to say you can't do this and you can't do that when the zoning opportunities within the county allow certain things to occur. So you're trying to balance the scale with the residents who are there along with the zoning requirements which are there also, and you try to find some ways of preserving some historical perspective of those particular communities. So you want to try to make sure that we all can live together within our communities. You have the diversity that's there, and try to maintain some diversity within our community. So everybody can live together in a decent manner without moving people away from their homestead.
So
definitely the minority community needs to be protected. And always.
Sure. So what is the county's plan to stop or slow gentrification in the county?
Well, you're looking at the zoning, and we are completely right now our comprehensive land use. So all those things were taken into effect as to what would occur within Georgetown County. So that's what we're basically looking at. Again, you're trying to balance the scale between property owners and people who live in those particular properties. If you're living there and you don't own the property and you don't own the surrounding property, and the requirements allow certain things to occur, then there's nothing really the county can do, because now you're looking at probably getting into an unauthorized use and talking about a taking, of their property. If the ordinance and the laws allow you to do certain things with your property, and you tell them no, you cannot do that, then that can be constituted as a taking of their particular property. So it was called inverse condemnation. So you have to be careful along those lines also, but you want to try to do some things to form a relationship with people to allow them to make sure that they understand the history of our particular communities, and to make sure our communities are protected. So,
yes, sir. And Mr. Lewis, I'm pretty sure, because I know it's here in Charleston County as well, but in Georgetown County, can you tell the viewers how they can be informed about, obviously, heirs property and property rights and property values?
Yeah, there have been some community meetings regarding heirs property, and you have the entity out of Charleston County which comes down regularly, really, and gives seminars on heirs property. So So their community meeting, their community workshop, their community organizations, which brings individuals in, and also I've done some workshops myself at different churches throughout our communities to inform them about ES property and what needs to be done to clear it up, or what can be done to clear it up, I should say, and some of the other aspects they can do to try to avoid the ES property concept and avoid losing their particular property. So there have been some workshops going on throughout the counties within our communities to try to enlighten them as to what can be done to avoid ES property, and if you do have ES property, what needs to be or what can be done in order to correct it and clear it up.
Yes, sir.
And losing your property.
Right. Exactly right. Well, Georgetown County Council Chair Louis Morant, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate talking with you.
Yes,
So,
sir.
all your viewers out there, have a great day. And again, come on down to Georgetown County. We need your dollars spent in Georgetown County.
Yes.
All right. Have a good day now. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
That was